Welcome back to Hard4Games, everybody. We are your hosts. I'm Tony.
I'm John.
And today we're talking about Tony Hawk Pro Skater because we have 3 development N64 Tony Hawk Pro Skater cartridges. 1 for the first game and 2 for the second game.
Yeah, it's going to be real cool to look at them. And it's just such an interesting game because it was made in that brief end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, like shining, hopeful end of the 90s. Everybody was like, oh man, it's going to be the year 2000. This is going to be so cool. And it was that brief era between this
Go Power
and this.
This emergence of worldwide terror networks caused unprecedented casualties. A covert mission was launched to hunt down and capture top Al-Qaeda leaders.
When games were allowed to be like fun and joyful, and they did not have to be grim and edgy and some sort of self-flagellatory punishment.
So we're going to get into these cards here, but I do want to give a big thank you and shout out to Andrew E., who lent all 3 of them to us today. Thank you so much, sir. Very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you. He's a super cool dude. Check out his Twitter. He's always got cool stuff. He's always trading cool stuff with people. Not always cool people, though. Not always cool people. No, they're usually
I know they're pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
So here we have John's collection of Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, and of course our prototypes, dev carts, right here. So I'm going to kind of break down what these are exactly. First things first, and I'm going to be blurring a lot of the contact information here, but first things first, we actually have a development cart that contains Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1. And we took a look at this in comparison to the retail game. There weren't really a ton of visible, noticeable differences. In a hex editor, it is a different game. The data is different, but there's nothing that we saw that really jumped out at us. This card over here gets a little bit more interesting because it is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. And we have different dates for different builds, and you can see each build being crossed out and the cart being flashed over with new builds, which of course is one of the benefits of this type of cart, is that it utilizes flash memory, and the developers could just sort of put a new game on it at their convenience. And of course we have contact information, which I'll mostly be blurring out on the back. Now, last up, we have what is the most interesting card. It's Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Notice that it has sort of the same thing as this one right here in that we have different build dates that have been crossed out, but we have fewer that have been crossed out, and these dates are earlier. The last one says Alpha 42001. Now, this does not play like an alpha, or at least how I would think of as an alpha, but there are numerous differences and glitches when comparing this to the retail version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. So this is primarily what we're going to be focusing on today. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the retail version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. That's the splash screen with all of the disclaimers and copyright information. Take a look at this screen here with all of the company logos, and then we have, at least on the N64 version, an in-engine series of cutscenes, which seem to all stop either so we can admire or because it's loading. I'm not 100% sure.
They're also kind of weird because, you know, in the PlayStation version, it was FMV, and these are like super fast and kind of weird. They're kind of lovable in like just they're so kind of wacky.
Yeah, yeah.
They're so Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
But when we move over to the beta version of the game, which is called Alpha, but I'm just going to call it a beta here because it kind of doesn't really play like an alpha, we have a shorter disclaimer section regarding copyright information. We don't have any info regarding Marvel because Spider-Man is in this game. And we don't have the company logos here. They're just mentioned in text below. Here are all of our options which exist in the retail version of the game, but we also have the cheats unlocked. Which is pretty common for betas and such, and like debug versions of games. A lot of things are unlocked just so the playtesters can kind of go through and mess around.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are some minor differences when taking a look at the different player characters. Notice how Tony Hawk's part is on a different side of his head.
Yeah,
Which
the
is
background photo is different. Yeah, and they're like skinny in some versions, but oh, that is weird.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know if it was a resolution difference or what, but in the PlayStation version, the character models were a little bit thinner. And in the N64 version, they were a little bit wider, but the beta version on N64 retains the thinness of the PlayStation version.
I wonder if that was like a horizontal resolution thing. It's a difference between them.
Could be, I'm not 100% sure. But otherwise, there are just sort of minor differences here. Sometimes they're holding the skateboard in the other hand. If you notice Alyssa here, she's oddly facing to the side.
Yeah, she's looking the wrong way.
Yeah, and so they like had to adjust her in the retail version of the game.
Yeah. I imagine when you port games like this from the PlayStation to the 64, because they're such different beasts, there's a lot of weird jank you have to fight with.
So here we have the Create a Skater mode, which is... Well, there's a head in the middle of this gentleman's torso.
Yeah, so if you've ever wanted to skate as Kuato from Total Recall, now you can.
There you go.
And I find it very entertaining that the oldest you can make a skater is 55.
Yes, indeed.
So they were like, oh, that's the oldest anybody could possibly be, even though, like, Tony managed a 900 on his 50th birthday. It's like, no, it turns out you can skate a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, exactly.
As it happens.
So notice that there are other glitches here as well. We try to change the shirt color, the sleeve color, and nothing really changes here.
Nope.
But I was wondering, you know, is this glitch just in the editor? Would this glitch follow through if I tried to select this player and play a little bit of the game? And turns out, it does! It does indeed, yes.
It actually comes off as even creepier than that, because not only is there that head, but there's a gap in your back where you can see the back of the head, and sometimes if you set the character just right, the head has like a long neck that's like a muscular shaft that extends out of your character's rear end, and it is really creepy.
Yes.
He'll do like a hand plant, and there's like just this meat, like, nugget just coming out of his hips in like a way that makes it look like just something broke off of him, and it is creepy.
Something certainly broken here, but it's with the game. But I was also wondering, hey, you know, would this exist on real hardware? Is it just the emulated footage that I'm playing here? And here it is on real hardware. It's still glitched.
I played it at the work 64. Retro Taku, it did the same thing. I played it at my own 64 at home. Yep. So that's 3 different 64s, the same output.
Here's a simple censorship difference. Here we see a bikini-clad woman in the beta version of the game, but she is silhouetted out in the retail version of the game.
Yeah, like Sharpied out.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Now, the bikini woman exists as is in the PlayStation version, but obviously with Nintendo's censorship rules, they had to remove her.
Yeah. It does come off as really weird the way me seeing it like that, because imagine you're at somebody's house and you walk into, say, their garage sort of like look that room is supposed to give off, and they have several pinups and they've Sharpied over the entire person. Would you run as fast as you possibly could away from that person? Because I probably would, because I think they were probably going to skin me next.
Yes.
That is a really weird thing to do. Literally any other option would have looked way more normal.
All right, let's go ahead and actually play the beta. And some of the main differences here relate to the collectibles. So specifically here with Skate, they are very multicolored.
Yeah, very, very bright. Almost kind of like the Nintendo 64 logo.
Yes.
A bit.
So here's the retail version. It's just a glowy orange. But again, with the beta version of the game, you get a variety of colors: greens, blues, oranges, a gradient of orange that goes from yellow to orange.
I suspect they would have done something like this maybe to see how textures are working in it, but I don't entirely know. Maybe at one point they were considering, oh, we'll make it look like the N64 thing, and instead later switched back to that because, to be honest, it looks way better.
The one thing you'll notice is that the speed in which the collectibles move in the beta tends to be a lot faster. So, for example, we have the pilot wings here, and you can see they're just spinning super fast comparatively to the retail version of the game.
Yeah, it's basically like manic how fast they're going. They're going crazy speeds.
In the retail version, they're slowed down. They tend to bob up and down a little bit more. And here's the footage slowed down to 40%, and you can still see that they're spinning at a really good clip.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the same thing with the hall passes in the second stage.
Yeah, the hall passes are going like crazy speeds.
Yeah. Another difference in the beta is that when you enter the hangar where the helicopter is, it's snowing. And it's not snowing when you enter that area in the retail version of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I want to note, too, is that, a lot of these differences are consistent throughout the different levels because there are collectibles in every level, but we don't want to spend time talking about every different collectible's speed and in every level, so we're just kind of focusing on the first one.
Yeah, the speed is just a little weird. That's really all we need.
As we mentioned earlier, you can enact pretty much every code here if you want to, so I just kind of went through and made a bunch of different adjustments and put on a bunch of different codes, and it really glitched the game. In fact, I thought maybe because the textures were turning green on me that it was some sort of remnant of turning on disco mode, but I kind of think that it wasn't. I think it's just glitching.
No. That's an homage to Shrek, the inventor of the skateboard.
Oh, yeah.
Real name Henry Schrecksman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He is an ogre who lives in a swamp in a CGI film.
Sure.
DreamWorks.
Shrek is love, Shrek is life.
Shrek is skateboard.
That's true.
That's why they had him in one of the later Tony Hawk games. Literally, Shrek is in one of those. I bet you forgot that, and now you're like, oh, that's right. Man, this series got strange and beautiful towards the end.
And so for those of you that don't remember, this is what the retail disco mode looks like, as I referenced it earlier. And of course, when you try to change your area, the game not only crashes, but it crashes spectacularly with a violent wiggle across the screen.
Yeah, full BSOD, blue screen of death looking thing there. It says the build date and all the info there. So I assume they might have recorded just to a VHS while they're going, so that if they did get a crash, they'd get all that info.
So here we have the park editor. And there's not a ton of initial difference here. It's mostly about layout. Notice at the top here in the retail version of the game, it shows what the C buttons do, which is helpful because otherwise you don't know what the C buttons do. But if you take a look at the beta version of the game, first off, you'll notice the lack of spacing between the bullet points. Yeah, when you actually get into the mode, it doesn't tell you what the C buttons do, it just tells you what the other buttons do, and so you just have to kind of figure it out by yourself.
What is this? Where do I go? Well, oh, no, I don't want the planter there. No. How do I? Okay. Oh, no, I don't want the... No, I want a half pipe. I want a half pipe. No, I don't want any... No,
I mean, it does tell you what it is. It does tell you what it is at the top there, but it just doesn't give you a full description of what you're supposed to be doing. So thank you, everybody, for watching. That is our coverage of these Tony Hawk Pro Skater carts, specifically the Alpha, although I don't really think it's an Alpha, the 42001 build. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And hey, maybe go check out the game, maybe check out the skate park foundation that they're doing, and check out Andrew's Twitter. He was the guy who lent us these, and he's got some super cool stuff there.
So again, thank you so much for watching, subscribing, joining us on Patreon, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
They're hard for games.